The House will come to order. Prayer by the chaplain.
I stand humbly before you all today in what has been a difficult week for all Americans, a week of pain, of confusion, of sorrow, for all of us, all trying to make sense of God, humanity, laws, and sympathy. And I stand here before you to humbly ask that we all be together in prayer, to be present, to love together, to cherish human life together, to direct our love to God together. The great mind of Theodore Herzl said, "Im tirtzu enzo agada," if you will it, it is no dream. This phrase guides me in my daily endeavors. My esteemed colleagues and hopeful friends, my prayer from us is to will a better world, a world in which dreaming is the first step to accomplishing goals, from aisle to aisle, heart to heart, hand to hand. And I pray for us to improve a state that I have come to love, one in which I was not raised but now call home, and the incredible state of Minnesota, one that has everything to offer young families, to our cherished elderly, a state with rich history and proud representation. I pray together that we build a guiding light for our country, with unity and compromise, with heart and soul, and with passion and compassion. May we together take a moment for silence, to remember those we have all lost in our lives, those we love, those we will love, and that we, all of us together, every day, see a world of brightness from the dreams that we have willed. Let us take a moment. And let us say, Amen.
The chaplain for today is Rabbi Jeremy Fine from the Temple of Aaron in St. Paul, Minnesota. Pledge of Allegiance. Please remain standing and recite the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The clerk will take the roll. The clerk will close the roll. Quorum is present. The clerk will read the journal of the preceding day.
Journal of the House, 90th session, 2018, 63rd day, St. Paul, Minnesota, Tuesday, February 20th, 2018.
If there is no objection, further reading of the journal will be dispensed with, and the journal will be approved as corrected by the chief clerk. Hearing no objection, the journal is approved as corrected by the chief clerk. Reports of standing committees and divisions. A copy of this order of business has been placed on each member's desk. If there's no objection, the reports will be adopted. Hearing no objection, the reports are adopted.
I think it got shut off. There we go. So let it print and then it'll reset? Sure. Hang right here.
Yes, I will. Sorry about that. I didn't check it, I should have.
Second reading of House files.
Second reading, House File number 1005.
Second reading.
Second reading, House File 1037.
Second reading.
Second reading, House File 1119.
Second reading.
Second reading, House File 1202.
Second reading.
Second reading, House File 1394.
Second reading.
Did it come out?
Introduction of bills. The following House files have been offered for introduction today. The chief clerk will report the House files and give them their first reading.
Introduction of first reading of House Files 2929 through 3016. What do we got? The motion? Okay.
To suspend.
All right, you have a motion?
We have to take that now.
Yes. Suspending the rules, take it up for immediate consideration. Is that come through now?
Yeah. What bill is this? I mean, a whole bunch of stuff.
That's the script. Say there's a motion. Yeah. Yeah. We're on introduction. Yeah.
There is a motion at the desk. The clerk will report the motion.
Pursuant to Article 4, Section 19 of the Constitution of the State of Minnesota, Hillstrom moves that the rule therein be suspended and an urgency be declared, and that the rules of the House be so far suspended so that House File number 2933 be given its second and third readings and be placed upon its final passage.
Recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Hillstrom, to explain the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Members, this is to place the AFSCME and MAPE contracts before this body for immediate consideration. Members, back in October, the Subcommittee on Employee Relations heard the AFSCME and MAPE contracts. That is 79% of public employees, including those who take care of our veterans, folks who work in our prisons, folks who plow our streets. Members, the Subcommittee on Employee Relations rejected those contracts, but then later approved 4 additional contracts by failing to meet, which had the exact same terms. Members, I believe that it's appropriate that before this body votes on each member's raise, that we actually approve the contracts that were fairly negotiated with the administration and pass the contracts for the state employees. Members, they are asking to be treated fairly. These were fairly negotiated contracts. They want to be treated with respect. It is only respectful to approve their 2% raise and 2.25% raise when the legislature is preparing to vote on their own 45% pay increase. So, Mr. Speaker, I would ask that the urgency be declared and that prior to taking up the legislative pay raises, that we actually approve the labor contracts. And I would ask for a roll call, Mr. Speaker.
Roll call has been requested. I'm sorry, I'm a little out of practice. Seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call, sorry. Discussion on the motion. The member from Wabasha, Representative Drazkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, members, I encourage a yes vote on Representative Hillstrom's motion. Members, we clearly and completely discussed this issue in the Subcommittee on Employee Relations. I look forward to a very robust discussion on the floor here today, and I think it's a chance for us to really get into the details of why we didn't approve those proposals coming forward as the unions negotiated with the administration and came forward with a proposal that many of us believed is out of step with what is happening in the private sector. So, Mr. Speaker, I look forward to a very robust and complete discussion of the issue. And members, I encourage you to vote yes on Representative Hillstrom's motion.
The member from Ramsey, Representative Lilly. Discussion on the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and members, I rise in support of Representative Hillstrom's motion. Thank you, Representative Drazkowski. That was most unexpected this morning, and we all here, very many of us, appreciate our workers, and it was fairly negotiated, the contracts, and in history, these things weren't political, so I'm glad that it sounds like we might have some movement here. These are vital team members, and appreciate your support on this. Just one final comment, just how important our team is. Take a look at your phone and the weather, or turn on WCCO and hear the weather, and think about these snowplow drivers or something that are going to be out there over the weekend. And appreciate the support on the Hillstrom motion.
Any further discussion on the motion to suspend the rules? The member from Wright, Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members, and I want to echo Representative Drazkowski, and I would encourage everyone to vote to suspend the rules. I would love to have this conversation and have a full and clear conversation as to what actually transpired in the SCR. So I would encourage you to suspend the rules today so that we can have that conversation. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion to suspend the rules? Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll on the motion. The clerk will close the roll. Flanagan votes aye. There being 128 ayes and 0 nays, the motion prevails. The clerk will give the bill its second reading.
Second reading, House File Number 2933.
Second reading. Recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Hillstrom, to introduce the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Members, House File 2933 is simply 2 labor contracts. These were heard in the Subcommittee on Employee Relations. Members, there was a negotiation that took place between the agencies and their labor unions, and these contracts were agreed to. It is a 2.25% raise in the first year and a 2% raise in the second. Members, they actually save money on the negotiations with the insurance provisions. And so all of the money that this legislature sent to each of the agencies have said that they would be able to deal with those costs within their budget. So members, the savings that was negotiated in healthcare actually goes a long way to help pay for these raises. Members, unless we pass these contracts, we do not get the health care savings. that was negotiated in these contracts, which is why it has been very, very important. After these contracts were rejected, 4 additional contracts were sent to the Subcommittee on Employee Relations. The subcommittee failed to meet, and so therefore those contracts went into effect. They had the same terms as the contracts that were rejected. Members, this is approximately 79% of your public employees are found under these 2 contracts, approximately 79%. That includes your veterans home workers, that includes your snowplow drivers, that includes all of the people that provide the services to Minnesotans that make Minnesota great. Members, I think it's appropriate that before we vote on our own pay raises, that we vote to approve these pay raises. So members, I would encourage you to vote yes, and I would stand for any questions that any members might have about the content of these contracts.
The member from Wright, Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Representative Hillstrom, for bringing these contracts forward. I would have loved to have been able to ratify these contracts in the SCR, but we have a little issue with the SCR. We have 30 days to meet, and sometimes that's not enough time for the department to get information to us, because we have a fiduciary duty in the SCR, and it's a very serious one that I take very seriously, to make sure that all of the contracts, when put together, actually fit within the budget parameters that we as a legislature passed. Because we can't pass something that then causes more cost and then they have to come back and ask for more money, which seems to happen once in a while. And so I asked a very simple question to MMB, and I asked them, do these contracts in totality, now they were negotiating quite a few different contracts, more than the 2 that we had set aside and the 3 that ultimately got ratified. There are almost 20 state employee contracts, but I asked them, if we ratify all of them, do they fit within all of the agency budgets? We asked that question in July. I thought I'd given them enough time to come up with those answers, because we didn't meet until October, November. But what actually happened was MME did give me some information about the 2 contracts, about AFSCME Council 5 and the MAPE contract. But I did not get that information until after 4 o'clock on a Tuesday for a Thursday morning hearing. So we had to work very, very quickly to even decipher what they sent to us. And when I actually proved out the numbers, and I know there's not too many folks in here that do accounting, but I do, and Senator Benson is an accountant, a CPA. When we proved out the numbers, $29 million was just missing. It was different than what they told us the contracts would cost. So that was one discrepancy that I took issue with, and I had no idea where to put $29 million. And for anyone who thinks $29 million is not a big deal, I want to ask you, which road could you fix in your district for $29 million? I know what road I'd fix in my district. I-94 could go a long way with $29 million. So that's not chump change, it's not insignificant. And I had no idea where on the spreadsheet to put that money. So that was problem number 1. Problem number 2, when I asked them for, when I looked back, at what was anticipated to be spent in these 2 contracts in the previous biennium, so what MMB had told us these contracts would cost for AFSCME and MAPE, AFSCME Council 5 and MAPE, and then what they actually cost in the biennium that we could see the report. Well, in MAPE alone, they spent 40% more than they projected. And between the 2 contracts, they overspent. I want you to listen to me very carefully. MMB and the unions overspent by $142 million. Now, if you think that's insignificant, think about what road could get done with that. And I know one road that could get done with that. You could expand I-94 all the way from Rogers, all the way to St. Cloud, and still have money left over for $142 million that was overspent for 2 contracts. Thank you, Representative Tice, who would love to see it go to St. Cloud. That is not small chump change. That's not a calculation error. That's real, serious money for the state of Minnesota. $142 million They underestimated in 2 contracts, 2 out of about 20 contracts. That's a big problem. We have a fiduciary responsibility. And maybe people in the past hadn't taken the SCR very seriously, and I'm embarrassed that they hadn't actually looked at these numbers, because when my nonpartisan staff person said to me, well, no one's ever really looked at those numbers before, I was embarrassed. We should be embarrassed as a body that no one looked at those numbers in that way before. How could I possibly, in good conscience, ratify contracts when all I had in front of me was inaccurate numbers, $29 million, did not prove out to what they told me it was going to cost. I didn't know where to put $29 million in all the different state agencies. And when they said, just trust us, it fits in the budget, I look back at the history, just one biennium back. It was short by $142 million. $142 million. So yes, we had some issues, and we have another problem in the SCR. It functions like no other committee or subcommittee in the legislature. We have a 30-day clock. If I don't meet, they automatically ratify without an affirmative vote. What committee do we have that if you don't meet, your bill passes? Wouldn't you love that? I don't even meet and my bill passes. That is how the SCR operates. So yes, we had issues. We had concerns. I had very large concerns, and anyone that knows me here knows that I'm talking about real numbers, real data, and real policy, and I don't make a bunch of stuff up. That's what really happened, members. And to say that anything else happened is just untrue. So I would love to ratify these contracts, but I believe we have an amendment. Is there an amendment at the desk? Mr. Speaker, do I have an amendment at the desk? Not yet? All right. I believe Representative Hillstrom wants to address that, and so I will. Thank you.
The member from Hennepin, Representative Hillstrom.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And members, there was public testimony over and over again that assured us that the numbers were accurate. And I don't want to impugn the character of anyone who testified before us that they weren't. Members, the Subcommittee on Employee Relations is different than any other committee. I reached out to Representative O'Neill as the chair of the committee and as the person who served on that subcommittee the longest of anyone, and she did not return my call for over 2 weeks. And when I asked her staff person, are we even going to meet, they said, you'll get the notice when we send it out to the public. I'll get the notice when we send it out to the public. So no, this committee hasn't been operating lately like any other committee. I have always consistently tried to work bipartisanly when I can. Always. And before I do something, I usually try to give a heads up that it's coming. This subcommittee has become dysfunctional, and this subcommittee has treated members in the minority with disrespect. And I don't say that lightly. I have never been treated in such a fashion as one of the leads on a committee. Never. So, can't answer questions I don't know exist. Happy to answer questions if anybody asks them. We were told that the legislature appropriated money to each of these agencies, and the agencies testified that they negotiated contracts within the parameters of the money that we gave them. That's the testimony. Now, you might not like a provision of the contract, but that is the role of negotiations. We allocate the money, the agencies go collectively bargain with their unions, and they bring back the contracts and they tell us it is within what we can afford. That's the job. We review the contracts, and then this body, when this body acts, the contracts either become law or they don't. At any point in time, this body can reject the contracts. But I have to tell you, these are the 79% of public employees that do the job every day. You want your snow plowed when it snows? You want to have workers that are going to do it. You want your veterans taken care of? These are the people that are going to do it. So I encourage you to approve these contracts. You hold the budget strings. If they come to you and say there isn't enough money, you decide whether you're going to give them more. The testimony is they have the money to pay for them. So let's approve them.
There is an amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
O'Neill moves to amend House File Number 2933 as follows. Delete everything after the enacting clause and insert. The amendment is coded RA 18-011.
I recognize the member from Wright, Representative O'Neill, to introduce your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. So I have a few things here. So
if I can just interrupt for 1 second, I apologize. Copies are being made of this. We won't proceed until everybody has a copy of it and has had time to review that, but we'll let her go ahead and introduce it and tell you what's in it. So apologize about the delay. The member from Wright, Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When we suspend the rules, this is what we get. Is that right, Mr. Speaker and members? So members, I have a few policy provisions that I've added, but more importantly, the 3 contracts, not the 4, we only had 3 come through that self-ratified because we did not meet, are also in my delete all. So not only are AFSCME, Council 5, and MAPE included, but also the 3 that came through the SCR that self-ratified are also here, because I would like to see these 3 contracts, the total of 5 contracts ratified. Now, let me tell you just quickly about the additional policy provisions that I would also like to see so that this committee functions more cleanly and more alike the rest of the body as we proceed through here. So the first one is a definition of ratification. It seems that as pieces of legislation have come through this body and gone to the governor, the MMB has had confusion as to what has actually been ratified or not. So I am clarifying what ratification actually is, which means we pass it, the Senate passes it, and the governor signs it. The next piece, Representative Hillstrom talked about insurance and how we must pass these contracts because of insurance. Well, not only did nonpartisan staff recommend to me that we bifurcate the insurance provision from the contracts, but MMB also recommended to me that we bifurcate the insurance from the contracts. And so my provision would be to do just that, to bifurcate and take up the insurance provision separate from the contracts. The next provision is about the 30-day clock. And so what had happened when we had these 2 contracts, AFSCME and MAPE, we had a 30-day clock, and we were at the very, very end of that 30-day clock, and I still did not get satisfactory information from MMB. I would have liked to meet longer. I would have liked to lay them over until we actually had full numbers from them, and I did not have that option. And so this would eliminate that so that we could actually have that option, and we operate more like the rest of the committees here at the House. The last provision is about voluntary contributions. And so right now, AFSCME and MAPE and all the other state employees have dues taken out, and they don't have control over to where those dues go. And sometimes those dues get spent for political purposes. And maybe they want that and maybe they don't. This would give them the option that if they did not want to spend money on a political campaign, that they would not have to. So this is a voluntary contribution to a political campaign as opposed to a forced. And those are the policy provisions, including the additional contracts that we already self-ratified, that are in my amendment. Thank you, members.
Discussion on the amendment. The member from Hennepin, Representative Hillstrom.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we're conferring right now to see if the amendment is divisible.
Members, the amendment is also available online currently as well. The member from, the member from Hennepin, Representative Hortman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Born and raised in Anoka, so you can use either Anoka or Hennepin. I have a point of parliamentary inquiry. While we're waiting to see the amendment, most of us didn't bring our computers because we did not expect to be here very long.
State your point of parliamentary inquiry.
My parliamentary inquiry is there not a state law that requires accept or reject contracts and that the legislature may not modify them?
Representative Hortman, can you repeat your question?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I probably could have been a little bit more precise with my question. Is there a state law, statute, or rule that prevents us from modifying the contracts?
Okay, that's a little different question that you asked, so let me confer. Representative Hortman, I can refer you to State Statute 179A22, subdivision 4, and the second sentence of that subdivision says, The negotiated agreements and arbitration decision must be submitted to the legislature to be accepted or rejected in accordance with this section and section 3.855.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
One moment, please. Section 3.855 reads, and I am in subdivision 2B, the last half of the last sentence. It shall submit the matter to the legislature to be accepted or rejected under this section. And I want to remind you that it is not my constitutional duty to interpret state law.
Thank you, Mr.
Representative Hortman.
Mr. Speaker. Parliamentary inquiry.
State your parliamentary inquiry.
Isn't it, boy, we're all learning our legislative muscles. Custom and practice for the House to always accept or reject and not accept amendments to the contracts on the House floor.
Representative Hortman, I believe that to be correct.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Then, Mr. Speaker, again, it's like getting back on a bike, but it's a little bit slower here at the legislature for us to remember. I would move that the amendment is out of order and ask that you find it out of order based on the custom and usage of the House.
Representative Hortman rises to a point of order that this amendment should be declared out of order. Advice for the Speaker on that point of order. The member from Wright, Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And the contracts of themselves, we are not changing anything within the contract. We're not changing 2% and 2.25%. We are not changing the step increases of 3.7% per year, which if you add that up, it's over 11% increase over the biennium. We're not changing any other factors within the contracts themselves. So I would say that we are actually not changing the contract themselves, Mr. Speaker.
Any further advice? The member from Hennepin, Representative Hortman.
I think the state statute is very clear that we have an option of accept or reject. We are not a party to these contracts. They have been negotiated between two parties. And as we are not a party to the contracts, we may not change them.
The member from Wabasha, Representative Drazkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Advice.
State your advice.
Mr. Speaker, it was 2 years ago that we brought through a contract proposal that carried with it in passage eventually of this body 4 or 5 different policy provisions that accompanied it. And so this body has already passed out of here successfully a full contract package with those policy provisions in. So I would encourage you to rule the point of order not well taken.
Mr. Speaker, advice.
The member from Ramsey, Representative Pinto. State your advice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it seems to me that the Speaker has already indicated to the body, as I think many of us know, the custom and usage of the body is to accept or reject the contracts. Under our guidelines, Mr. Speaker, in the House, custom and usage actually prevails over the Minnesota statutes, but in this case, they are consistent. The Minnesota statute says the contract is accepted or rejected. Those are the two options. We've always read it that way. That's the custom and usage of the House. I have not heard anything from any other member that would contradict those provisions and that approach. So, Mr. Speaker, I would urge you to find the point of order well taken.
Mr. Speaker.
The member from Hennepin, Representative Thiessen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just to point of history, when this has been raised on a point of order previously in 2014 and 2013, it was ruled that the point of order that Representative Hortman is making is well-founded, and that was supported on an appeal of the ruling of the Speaker. So it is not just the custom and usage in the general sense, but actually custom and usage in terms of rulings that this body has made previously. And I think our other custom and usage is to follow previous precedent with regard to this.
The member from Wabasha, Representative Drazkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Further advice.
State your advice.
Mr. Speaker, we have not changed in the past, to my knowledge, the contents of the contracts as they have come through here. And Mr. Speaker, this proposal in front of you and the amendments being added to the bill do not change the contents of the contracts either. The amendment that Representative O'Neill is bringing forward is congruent in its custom and usage and respecting that same treatment in that we do not amend or change the contents of the contracts going through here. It is also congruent with the custom and usage played out last time that I mentioned 2 years ago, in which we had additional provisions as part of the bill that the contract was carried in, but again, did nothing to change, denature, add to, or subtract from the contract provisions in that particular bill. So, Mr. Speaker, this approach that Representative O'Neill is bringing forward is perfectly in line, as far as I can see, with the custom and usage of this body. And Mr. Speaker, I would encourage you once again to find the point of order not well taken.
The member from Hennepin, Representative Pepin.
Mr. Speaker, advice?
State your advice.
Mr. Speaker, to the previous point that was made about a previous legislature when Representative Thiessen was in fact Speaker Thiessen and made the point of order, I would just remind the body that a past legislature is different than the current legislature, and a past legislature does not bind the current legislature. And I would also reiterate the point that this does not change the contracts in any way. So I would ask the body to take the point of order not well taken, and Mr. Speaker, for you to rule not well taken first.
Mr. Speaker, further advice.
Representative Considine, for what purpose do you rise?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I guess advice.
State your advice.
Well, I finally got a copy of the amendment that Representative O'Neill put down, and it resolves all around whether there's changes. Well, there are things that are crossed off, and there are things that are underlined, and it starts right off. Delete everything after the enacting clause and insert. Those are obviously changes. So I don't know how you make the argument that it is not changed when it starts right off saying we are deleting an enacting clause and inserting stuff. I mean, I don't know how you're going to make a rule like saying that we're not inserting and changing things when you are. Thank you,
the member from Ramsey, Representative Pinto.
Mr. Speaker, further advice.
State your advice.
Just briefly, Mr. Speaker, I just want to respond to the Majority Leader's point about how past legislatures don't bind current legislatures. That's the whole point of custom and usage. It's the usage and the custom. It's what's happened in the past. There is very clear parliamentary guidance for us. This is how it works. Part of the guidance that we have, and Mr. Speaker, that you're ruling upon, is the custom and usage in the past. So it's helpful to know what happened in the past. The Speaker has already acknowledged, as actually has a previous Speaker acknowledged, the custom and usage is to not do this. And Mr. Speaker, for that reason, I would certainly urge you to find the point of order well taken.
Upon receiving the advice of numerous members and upon reviewing the actual amendment in the underlying bill, I found the point of order not well taken. Discussion on the amendment. The member from Hennepin, Representative Hillstrom.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I've been advised that it is divisible, so I would like to divide the amendment between line 3.17 and line 3.18. So members, I would like to vote on the second half of the amendment first. That is straight up the state contracts, Mr. Speaker. And I would like a roll call vote.
Get your 10 hands, 15 hands.
Okay, Representative Hillstrom moves a division between lines 3.17 and 3.18. She has asked for a roll call. Seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call. The clerk will report the amendment.
Hillstrom is moving to divide the O'Neill amendment. The first portion would be lines 1.12 through 3.17. The second portion of the O'Neill amendment would be lines 3.18 through 5.17. We're voting on the second portion first.
Just to make sure we've got that correct, Representative Hillstrom.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And if I could speak to the second half.
Representative Hillstrom, the second half of that is before the body. So 3.18 to the end of the amendment is the divided portion that is now before the body. Representative Hillstrom, to that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, these are the labor contracts. These are the ones that the Subcommittee on Employee Relations allowed to become law, or allowed to go into effect without meeting, as well as the 2 labor contracts that I had put forward. So members, in addition to the previous 79% of public employees, now you get to vote on your 911 radio operators. You get to vote on your prison guards. So I want to make it really clear to you that now public safety is also a part of these contracts, based on Representative O'Neill's amendment. These contracts specifically went into effect when the SER failed to meet. So I would encourage a yes vote, and I would ask for a roll call, Mr. Speaker. I already got a roll call.
A roll call is already in place. The member from Wabasha to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just to clear some things up, members, it's been discussed that the AFSCME and MAPE contracts have been ratified, and they have not. And as a matter of fact, what we have currently with them is we have interim approval, and that's what happens when the 30 days in the Subcommittee on Employee Relations lapse without the subcommittee acting on it, is they automatically get interim approval. And so the only body that can ratify contracts is this body, and that's where it happens. And members, the amendment before us does not ratify the contract. The bill will ratify the contract. So I appreciate your indulgence and look forward to further debate. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The member from Wright, Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. And I want to encourage you to vote in favor of this. portion of the amendment. I did finally receive back some information from MMB. It came, like I said, I asked for the information back in July, and I finally got some numbers, although they aren't complete. I asked for more, and I didn't get the full numbers so I could prove out that these numbers are accurate. But I do have information from MMB that shows, at least at a very high level, that these fit within the budget parameters. Again, I did not get the proof that I could actually prove that out like an accountant would do, which I am. So I don't have that, but I would like to approve these contracts today, all of them that we put together in this amendment, and I would encourage a yes vote.
Further discussion on the amendment. The member from Ramsey, Representative Lilly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of the amendment and the division of such. You know, I'm just going to backtrack. You know, this whole thing's just really sad to me. So, you know, we've got people that are really part of our team. I've heard all of you give your retirement speeches and all that stuff, and you're respectful to your staff, and I love your staff, and we love the people up here. But this is sick. You know, it is really sad. And then you get into all this, you know, a lot of us aren't attorneys. And then you get into all this procedural stuff, and we play a game for about an hour and dividing and stuff. But I tell you, the citizens of Minnesota don't like that. You know, treat people, you know, how you want to be treated. And I've been on the capital investment trip and other trips around the state, and I face some of these staff that are working these public institutions around, you know, and we're talking about kind of boring stuff about roofs. But you look at these people in the face, and they're part of our team. And we need to remember that. I work for a big company in Minnesota, and I'm just blessed to have that job, I tell you. I'm thankful for it. They treat us pretty well. And I think we need to do the same thing for our employees. I was serious about that snow plowing thing. They're going to be out there. You know, we're going to be talking about nursing homes. You know, these are tough jobs. Teaching our kids. I mean, it's just sad to me, like playing legal crap games. Get over it, people. This is Minnesota. We're better than this. Take care of our team. Treat them well. Hire good people. If they're not, get rid of them. It's pretty simple. Like Ulam would do with his business. Baker would do with his. If you got people that aren't stepping up doing a job, you'd find a way to train them, or you'd have some transitions. So we have good people, treat them well. I encourage you to vote yes, and just quit playing games, all of us. Maury Lanning, when he was here, you know, was a great guy. He didn't have to go through this. This is sad.
Just a reminder, members, the amendment before the body is the second half of the amendment coded RA 18-011, everything from line 3.18 and on. That's up for consideration. The member from Wabasha, Representative Drazkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I would like to talk about the team too. And members, I sent a handout around, and it looks at some of the numbers that have been discussed. Part of them have been discussed. And we hear the unions talking about, why didn't you vote for it was only a 2% increase. And Representative Hillstrom, you and I and other people on the committee know it's more than that. It also includes the step increases for the majority of the employees in each of the bargaining units. And members, that's what you see on this sheet here. And as we think about the team, are we only going to think about the government team, or are we going to think about the Minnesota team? Because a good share of the team is left out if we don't consider the private sector. And members, we're talking about 35,000 government employees collectively in these contracts. The increased proposal is in the neighborhood of $500 million. These are important decisions that shouldn't just be glossed over. Members, look at the numbers that have been placed in front of you, compiled by House Research. The Consumer Price Index for each of the last 5 years in 2013. Now, this could be equated, and probably should be equated, to what the cost of living adjustment approach is for these union negotiations. You will also see the COLAs under each of those two areas, AFSCME union contract and the MAPE union contract. Compare the two. Over the last 5 years, while the Consumer Price Index has gone up in 2013 by 1.65%, the COLA for AFSCME was 2%. The COLA for MAPE was 2%. When the cost of living increase was 1.55% across the state of Minnesota, the COLA for AFSCME was 3%, and for MAPE was 3%. And I can go on, and you can look on the sheet and you can see each time the cost of living adjustment given to the government employees was greater than the average person in the state of Minnesota, greater than the farmers out there in our districts, greater than the beauticians working in the beauty shops, greater than the mechanics across the street, across the state, fixing our cars. Those team members are very important. Greater than the bricklayers building our buildings across the state of Minnesota. Greater than the contractors in our state pounding nails. Greater than the apartment managers and owners. Greater than the people who own the cafes and the waitresses who make them go. They are important parts of our team. Greater than the manufacturing workers, greater than the miners, greater than the grocery store workers, greater than the hotel and motel staff that take care of us and our visitors when we need them. Greater than the rest of the private sector on average. That's what we have delivered in the cost of living adjustment to these 35,000 employees each of the last 5 years, greater than the private sector. Now, members, the part that gets left out is the fact that in addition to that 2% or 2.25% that was proposed in these two union contracts that we provided interim disapproval for back in October, in addition to that, they get a step increase on top of that. You can see that in the sheet. It varies from 2.75% to 3.5%. So look at the area that says individual median earnings on the sheet. Each of the last, we don't have last year, but we have the 4 years before that. In 2013, while our team members in the private sector while that average Minnesota worker was getting a 1.32% complete collective total increase on average, the AFSCME union employees that qualified for their step increases, which is over half of the employees, received a 4.75% increase. The MAPE union employees, while the waitresses were getting a 1.32% increase, received a 5.50% increase. And that plays through and true each of the last 5 years. And members, if you look at what is being proposed in these contracts that are before us, that were not provided interim approval by the Subcommittee on Employee Relations, the curve continues to go up at a rate that isn't reflected by the rest of the team. And members, that is why interim disapproval was voted against by this member, and that is what I think is being overlooked in this discussion. And members, that is the complete picture that the union bosses have not shared in their messaging. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Hillstrom.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And members, Representative Drazkowski didn't talk about the cost, the savings by healthcare. But I want you to get a context about how other states are doing. So this contract is on par with raises from other employees across the country. State government employees across the border in Wisconsin are getting a 2% raise at the direction of Scott Walker. State government employees in Georgia, Indiana, Kansas, Louisiana, Nevada, and Washington are also getting raises of at least 2%. And the average wage increase in the private sector last year was more than 3%, 3.1 this year, and next year is expected to be 3.2. So members, our contracts are 2.25 and 2. So members, I would encourage you to vote in favor of these contracts as they were negotiated.
The member from Nicollet, Representative Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I want to remind you that these contracts are about people, they're about their families, and it's about the work that these folks do. I had 4 gentlemen in my office today. I had a nice conversation. They happen to work at the St. Peter Regional Treatment Center. They both work at the Minnesota Sex Offender Program, and they work in the state Minnesota Security Hospital. And I've talked about these folks before, but for you newer members, I'm just going to share some of our conversation today that kind of illustrates the kind of things that they do. I could tell the stories about the families that worry about those folks going to work. I could talk about the support in that community for these people to earn a decent wage for the important work they do. Today we talked about a couple of things. First of all, we talked about with the gentlemen who work in the sex offender program. What's their concern? Their concern is that they're now supervising at one time alone 30 sex offenders. And they talked about the stress that puts on them. They're asking to have at least 2 people on board all the time. Sure made sense to me. I thought I kind of reflected myself. I said, boy, if I'm in that situation, I've been in that facility, and I've been in that facility during a lockdown. I thought, my goodness, I can't imagine the stress that you have. And we talked about how it just kind of tenses your body up. It kind of tenses your body up, and you come home exhausted from that day's work. And it's their work, and they go do it every day. Both of these facilities run 24/7, 365 days a year. So it's work that absolutely has to be done, and it's difficult work. One of the gentlemen that was in the group with me, we talked about a tour that I was able to take about 4 or 5 years ago. I got to go alone and really learn what goes on. This was in the security hospital, to see what was going on, see what life was like for people working there, to understand it better. Because this is complex work, and they've been teaching me over the years. I've learned a lot. Again, in that night, we observed a patient who was, the tensions were escalating. And they immediately got me into a safe, secure spot, and 5 or 6 of these folks got around and worked with this patient patiently and carefully worked with this person so that situation did not escalate at that time. I saw professionalism to the utmost degree of these individuals working with a patient. That patient could be from one of your districts. It's likely from one of your districts. My point being is that this is remarkably important work. This is a modest raise. It's a matter of respect for people who do the work for the state of Minnesota. I could go on and tell stories about the people I worked with at Minnesota State University. I'll tell one. The woman that worked in my office who was a AFSCME worker, who I worked with, we must have worked together for 20+ years. I saw every time a student came into our office, it was an advising center, and a lot of students came into my office that were really struggling in college. They were struggling personally. They were hurting. And every one of those students, I mean everyone, came and were met with deep respect and deep dignity by the person who was in charge of the office where I was working, an AFSCME worker. I don't know exactly what the wages are that these folks make, but I perceive it's in like 35, 40, 45,000. It's not a big wage. It's probably less than we make here in the legislature. And yet they do remarkably hard work. We absolutely have to pass these contracts today. I ask you to do this for these people who do important work for us across the state of Minnesota and for their families. Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll on the second portion of the amendment.
Mr. Speaker. Just, Mr. Speaker.
What are you rising for, Representative Cindy?
Just a question. I was just wondering if the state electricians were on strike.
That's not appropriate. The clerk will close the roll. Representative Johnson S. votes aye. There being 111 ayes and 17 nays, the second portion of the amendment is adopted. That now puts before us, members, the first portion of the amendment coded RA 18-011. And that's everything up through line 3.17. To the author of that amendment, the member from Wright, Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I would encourage a green vote, and I'd like a roll call, please, Mr. Speaker.
Roll call has been requested. Seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call. Further discussion on the amendment. The member from Hennepin, Representative Hillstrom.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker and members, that last vote just told us that this next vote is all about politics. 111 members of this body believe that these labor contracts are fair. In just a little while, you're going to vote to raise your own pay 45%. I think it is improper to add items to the negotiated agreements and to make public employees a political football, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, at this time, I would ask to withdraw House File 2933.
Representative Hillstrom, you can table the bill, you can return it to the author, or you can refer it to a committee. Representative Hillstrom.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, at this point, my first motion would be to table the bill.
Representative Hillstrom moves to table House File 2933 as amended. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. The motion prevails. Messages from the Senate.
Message from the Senate, Mr. Speaker. Pursuant to Joint Rule 3.02, Clause A, the conference committee report on Senate File 444 was discharged after adjournment, and the bill was laid on the table. Senate File number 444, an act relating to liquor. The Senate has reappointed as such committee Senators Dames, Utke, and Thomasoni. Hoppe moves that the House accede to the request of the Senate and that the Speaker appoint a conference committee of 3 members of the House to meet with a like committee appointed by the Senate on the disagreeing votes of the 2 houses on Senate File number 444.
I recognize the member from Carver, Representative Hoppe, to your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That is my motion, and I'm not sure if we just heard this or not. I didn't catch it, but this was the liquor bill from last year, and I do think we should reconstitute the conference committee. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would urge members to support my motion, please.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, no. Motion prevails.
Message from the Senate, Mr. Speaker. Pursuant to Joint Rule 3.02, Clause A, the Conference Committee report on Senate File 799 was discharged after adjournment and the bill was laid on the table. Senate File number 799, an act relating to state government. The Senate has reappointed as such committee Senators Benson, Abler, Housley, Utke, and Laurie. Dean M. moves that the House accede to the request of the Senate and that the Speaker appoint a conference committee of 5 members of the House to meet with a like committee appointed by the Senate on the disagreeing votes of the 2 houses on Senate File number 799.
Recognize the member from Washington, Representative Dean, to your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That is my motion. This is to reconstitute the conference committee. It's a bill relating to interagency agreements, and the House provisions require more reporting to the chairs and the ranking members of each committee, and I would ask for your support.
Any discussion on the Dean motion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, no. The motion prevails.
Message from the Senate, Mr. Speaker. I hereby announce the passage by the Senate of the following Senate file herewith transmitted. Senate File number 545.
First reading of Senate files.
First reading of Senate File number 545, an act relating to retirement. The bill is being referred to the Committee on Ways and Means.
Announcements by the Speaker.
Announcements by the Speaker. The Speaker announces the appointment of the following members of the House to a conference committee on Senate File number 444, Hoppe, Nash, and Loeffler. Announcement by the Speaker. The Speaker announces the appointment of the following members of the House to a conference committee on Senate File number 799, Dean M., Schumacher, Albright, Keel, and Schultz.
Conference committee reports.
Conference committee report on House File number 399, an act relating to public employment. The report is addressed to the Honorable Kurt L. Doudt, Speaker of the House, and the Honorable Michelle L. Fischbach, President of the Senate. We, the undersigned conferees for House File 399, report that we have agreed upon the items in dispute and recommended as follows. The conference report is signed by all 5 conferees on behalf of the House and 4 of the 5 conferees on the part of the Senate. Anderson S. moves that the report of the Conference Committee on Senate File number 399 be adopted and that the bill be repassed as amended by the Conference Committee.
Recognize Representative Anderson, who will explain the report.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, if you recall from last session, the State Government Finance Committee is the place where all of the funding for the legislature is part of. So all of the chief clerk's office that you see here, all of the nonpartisan research staff that you have, all of the staff that we have that work for our independent caucuses, this is to fund them. This is money to fund our operations as a legislative body. And that was all part of the state government finance bill last session. However, as you remember, the governor, after signing the tax bill, decided he didn't like certain provisions of the tax bill that he signed. And as a response, he decided to eliminate the funding for the entire legislature. In essence, saying that the legislature does not exist. Now, as we remember during the last couple of months, this has been going on through the courts and has been what I consider to be an embarrassment to Minnesota. To see that we have a governor that thinks he can just eliminate this body, which is one of the three legs of the stool, if you will, between the judicial, legislative, and executive branch. So to fix this, I am grateful to the governor for his words of saying that he will sign the legislation, putting back the funding for the legislature, making it available for us to operate, for us to be here on a day like today, as long as the bill is clean, and that is exactly what we're doing today. So what you will find in this conference committee report is essentially the same funding that we had in the state government finance bill that many of you voted for by keeping the legislative body whole. It also pays back the money for the courts, and it also pays back the money to the Legislative Coordinating Commission that is responsible for a lot of the commissions that are near and dear to your hearts, whether that's the Pension Commission, whether that's the Data Commission, and a whole host of other commissions that we have and that we operate with a lot of times input from the public as well. So with that, members, I stand for questions. I look forward to hearing your questions. Thank you.
Is there any discussion on the conference committee report? The member from Hennepin, Representative Hortman.
Mr. Speaker, I can wait until after this part.
Any further discussion? Representative Hortman, go ahead.
Actually, Mr. Speaker, it's probably appropriate right now. Representative Anderson, if you would yield to a question.
She will yield. Representative Hortman.
You mentioned something about lawyers' fees, and what I was wondering is, did the amount appropriated to the legislature increase in the conference committee meeting last night at 8 o'clock?
The member from Hennepin, Representative Anderson S.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and Representative Hortman. I did not mention that, but I will tell you that this bill is funding the legislature. It is not an increase to the legislature from what you saw in the state government finance bill from 2017.
Representative Hortman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Any further discussion on the adoption of the conference committee report? There being no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion to adopt the conference committee report on House File 399 signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails, and the clerk will give a bill its third reading as amended by conference.
Third reading, House File number 399, as amended by conference.
Third reading as amended by conference. Further discussion. Representative Liebling.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would Representative Anderson yield to a question?
She will yield. Representative Liebling.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Anderson, this is a very unusual kind of conference report. I think we need to acknowledge that. If you read it, the title of this report, A Bill for an Act, is something completely different than what's in the body of the bill. And I think the procedure by which this is before us is pretty unusual. And I'm really concerned that this body is going along this way. And I view it as anti-democratic, small d, and really troubling because the bill, as I'm understanding it, and the question to you is to explain the procedure by which we're at this point and why this is okay to do it, if that's what you think. But normally, a bill comes to the floor and it gets debated and potentially amended by the members of this body before it gets sometimes sent to a conference committee to be put together with whatever the Senate has passed. But in this case, a completely different bill went to conference committee and something came out that really had nothing to do with, or very little to do with the bill that was originally sent. Obviously, this is done just to have a vehicle to bring this here today. But what the public needs to understand is that what this does is it means that members of this body, individual members, have absolutely no ability to impact what's in this bill. And so my question to you is, why are we using this procedure? Is this something that you, when you're in the minority, is this something that you'll think is okay for the majority to use?
Representative Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Representative Liebling, I'm glad that you asked that question. Actually, this isn't new to the legislative body. When the Democrats controlled the legislature in 2014, they did something similar. I'll help you out. It's Senate File 2470. The bill is an act relating to education, and in the title it says that it's authorizing an innovative partnership to deliver certain technology and educational services, proposing coding for new law in Minnesota Statutes 123A. Then the bill came back from conference committee, and it contained the medical cannabis bill. I think that is a lot different than a bill for an act relating to education. In this bill, the difference between the two is that when you look at the title of the bill says relating to public employment. And this language that we had as part of the conference committee report is about public employment. It's about the public employment of all the staff people that we have in the legislature, whether that's the nonpartisan research, whether that's the LCC folks, whether that's the staff in your caucus or our caucus, all of the chief clerks folks, they're all part of public employment. And so if you look at House Rule 6.40, and if you're looking on the second paragraph, this is a higher precedence than any of the other rules that we have in our body. It says that a conference committee report must include only subject matter contained in the House or the Senate versions of the bill for which that conference committee was appointed, or like subject matter contained in a bill passed by the House or the Senate. And that's what we have here today. On top of that, to address your concerns relating to public input, we've had public input going back all the way from January 1st, or whatever the first day of session was, in January of 2017. State government finance our entire committee worked very hard for several months, 5 months to be exact, putting together the state government finance bill, having committee hearings, talking about the legislative budget, talking about the governor's budget, talking about all the state agency budgets that we have. And in that, we had public testimony provided, we had agency people come forward, we as members discussed this bill at length. On top of that, we went to conference committee, and we had several conference committees, public input, again, on the legislative budget and everything else that was contained in that state government finance bill. On top of that, we went to special session, and we had, again, more input from that. And as you know, the last few months, for basically a year, we have been debating this issue, having input from the public, and giving them the opportunity to have it on the record, as well as emailing us and contacting us about this issue. So to address your concerns, I hope that covers it all. I have more information, happy to share that with you too, but I think that covers all of your concerns.
Representative Liebling.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Representative Anderson. I see you came very well prepared for that question, and I'm not surprised that you did. But you know, people need to understand that the title of this bill now, this bill that's refunding the legislature, is relating to public employment, clarifying limits on severance pay to highly compensated public employees. There's nothing in here about that. So, Representative Anderson, what I understood you to say is, well, you did it, so it's okay if we do it. You know what? We're going down a really dark hole here, and I hope that we can stop doing that. You did it, so we do it, because this is about the public. This is about future legislators. This is about whether there's going to be really an opportunity for an individual legislator to amend a bill. Not about whether we as a party or as a caucus have a right to do this or that. Every one of us is elected from a district. Every one of us has an election certificate. Every one of us, our constituents think that we have input here. They think we do. And you know what? Some of the time, we don't. People need to understand that. And those of us who just go ahead and say, yeah, do it because we want to achieve a certain result. And I'm not arguing here with your result. I'm not arguing that your committee didn't have all those hearings. But that's not on this very bill that's before us. And this process, which I see the majority going down this path more and more with all these conference reports now, I'm really concerned about what we're doing to this body. If we want to keep a democracy, we need to honor the institution. The institution's set up to let individual members have a shot at getting something before our peers for consideration, and this procedure doesn't allow for that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The member from Ramsey, Representative Pinto.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to a point of order.
State your point of order.
Mr. Speaker, Joint Rule 2.06 says that a conference committee report, such as the thing that we have here, must be limited to provisions that are germane to the bill and amendments that were referred to the conference committee. A provision is not germane if it relates to a substantially different subject, etc. Mr. Speaker, the subject that went out from this body clarified limits on severance pay to highly compensated public employees. Now, unless the majority is saying that they are highly compensated public employees, it seems to me that the allocation of $32.38 million to the House and a similar dollar figure to the Senate is not germane. It does not relate to a substantially different subject as what went out from this body. Now, I could imagine looking at custom and usage. It does fall below the joint rules in our House procedures. But of course, the majority leader made the point that looking to a prior legislature is not a guide to what happens in this body with our legislature. She just said that a little bit ago. Now, I disagreed with that. I would continue to. But, Mr. Speaker, you ruled in favor of the words the majority leader said. So looking at prior practice, I was not around anyway, is not something you can do, nor would it make any sense, right? We've got a joint rule that is very clear, and allocating all this money to the House and the Senate is something that is, may well be necessary, but is something that is not germane at all, not substantially related to these clarifying limits on severance pay to public employees. Mr. Speaker, I would urge you to find the point of order well taken.
I find the point of order not well taken. Further discussion on the conference committee, on repassage of the conference committee report. The member from Hennepin, Representative Freiberg.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to a point of order as well. My point of order is under Article 4, Section 17 of the state constitution, and I'm prepared to offer advice.
Representative Freiberg rises to a point of order. State your advice, Representative Freiberg.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Article 4, Section 17 of the Minnesota Constitution says that no law shall embrace more than one subject, which shall be expressed in its title. So the title of the bill has to say what's in there. Representative Liebling made some very capable points. This bill says that the conference committee report says that it is clarifying limits on severance pay to highly compensated public employees. There's nothing in the bill related to that topic, so it violates the Minnesota Constitution. The title is not reflective of what's in the bill, and I urge the Speaker to find the point of order well taken.
I find the point of order not well taken. Further discussion. The member from Rice, Representative Bly.
Thank you, Speaker. Point of parliamentary inquiry.
State your point of parliamentary inquiry.
I'm troubled by some comments that the introducer of the bill or the bill made, referring to the executive and referring to motives, which I understand we are advised not to do. Is there a remedy? Would the Speaker caution members not to behave in such a way or to impugn the motives of others?
I think you just did a very nice job yourself. Thank you. Further discussion. The member from Hennepin, Representative Hortman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, last year we had a huge budget surplus. But instead of taking care of all Minnesotans, Republicans chose to prioritize the wealthy and corporations. This resulted in the legislature's budget being vetoed by Governor Dayton out of concern for the fiscal stability of the future of the state, and has resulted in hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees. Today, Republicans should join DFLers to approve a modest raise and pension security for our state's dedicated public employees. We are fortunate in Minnesota to have thousands of dedicated professionals who serve our state. They deserve to have their agreed-upon contracts approved by the legislature. The MAPE contract, for example, they spent 4 months negotiating. I find it distasteful that we're here today approving a legislative budget before we're taking care of the state employees who serve our state every day, all year round. It just isn't a very Minnesotan thing to put ourselves first in line. Republicans in the legislature should ensure that state employees are financially secure before taking care of our own financial security. Members, I urge a no vote on the conference committee report.
The member from Hennepin, Representative Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I'm going to urge that you have a green vote on this bill. And although our staff members are not part of the state contracts that the minority leader just mentioned just now, they are still state employees. They are state employees of the House and they're state employees of the Senate that work very hard for us. And a lot of times they're having to work very late at night for days on end as we get down to the very crunch time. And it doesn't matter who's in control. There is always that last crunch where these folks, after we leave this room, are here for hours after, making sure that it's recorded and is part of our state history. I would hate to think that we would make this a political moment for these folks that work so hard for us every single day, and that I feel very blessed to have met and know and worked with on a day-to-day basis. Members, I am grateful to those of you that voted for this same funding on May 25th. I'm not going to name you all, but I've got Representative Halverson voted for this, Representative Hortman, you voted for this, Representative Cagle, Representative Marquardt, Representative McQuaid, Representative Pryor. All of you voted for this when you voted for the state government finance bill. You voted for this and you had no problems voting for it then. I can't imagine why you wouldn't vote for this funding of the state legislature. This isn't a pay raise. This isn't about us. It's not about us as members. It's about all the staff people that work for us and make this body function, whether we're here or the next class is here or whoever replaces us down the road. So with that, I ask for your green vote.
The member from Hennepin, Representative Pepin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members, and thank you, Representative Anderson, for coming forward with this today. Just a couple of things I'd like to reiterate. I think, Representative Hillstrom, you pointed out an erroneous comment in an earlier discussion. This is the exact level of funding. In fact, Representative Hillstrom, if you voted for this today, you'll be consistent with your vote last year. So I don't know what you view your vote was, but if you look at the appropriation for the last biennium, just to clarify, it is the exact same dollar amount. And also, members, and I apologize for speaking after Representative Anderson, but I sit on the LCC, and I had the opportunity to listen from our legislative auditor and from others who are affected by this. It's not just us, it's all across the system. Our ability to bring forward bills, our revisor's office, numerous employees across state government and that help us do our work here are impacted by this. I've got a whole list and I was ready to talk about it, but it looks like we're about ready for a vote. I would just encourage members today to vote for this and just know that we feel good that the governor has asked us to bring forward a clean bill and that today we can do what the public is expecting us to do. We passed the bill today. We're able to continue to do our work and work together to get the job done for the people of Minnesota. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll. The clerk will close the roll. There being 77 ayes and 50 nays, the bill is repassed as amended by conference and its title agreed to. Motions and resolutions. There are copies of the non-controversial motions at the House desk and online. If there's no objection, we'll take action on these motions first. Hearing no objection, the motions prevail. There is a motion at the desk. The clerk will report the motion.
Hortman moves to amend the permanent rules of the House for the 90th session as follows. Add a new rule to read.
A copy of this motion is being passed out to members. Motion was made by Representative Hortman. The member from Hennepin, Representative Hortman, to your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I spoke with the chair of the Rules Committee, and I would ask that the House refer my motion to the Rules Committee. It's a proposed change to the rules to establish a task force of outside experts in human resources and employment law to give us advice on how to resolve the sexual harassment problems we have in the legislature and how we might set up a mechanism for outside parties to report and have their complaints dealt with.
The member from Hennepin, Representative Pepin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wasn't clear if that was a motion or I should make the motion. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thought she said that she made a motion. Yes, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Representative Hortman. This is the exact perfect place to go. As you know, we will start. I posted a committee hearing for Monday for the subcommittee, and we will have the National Conference of State Legislatures in for the first hearing. We will have a series of meetings, and as I mentioned, we will also have Representative Lesh before the committee at some point to bring forth his and Representative O'Neill's proposal, and also various experts to the committee. So this is the appropriate place to go. And so with that, Mr. Speaker, I move that the Hortman motion be referred to the Committee on Rules and Legislative Administration. And members, I would ask for your support.
Representative Pepin moves to refer this motion to the Committee on Rules and Legislative Administration. Discussion on that motion. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The motion prevails. Announcements. The member from Ramsey, Representative Pinto.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, will Representative Johnson B. Please yield?
He will yield. Representative Pinto.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Chair, you may be aware that, and I know the members of the body are, that there's been a great interest and great concern about gun violence in our society. This is an issue that's been particularly, folks have been aware of, particularly the last few days, but of course months and years. Mr. Chair, there was a bill on criminal background checks that was referred to the Public Safety Committee just about a year ago, actually a year ago tomorrow. And I'm wondering, Mr. Chair, of course you're new in your role, but that bill regarding criminal background checks to ensure that when a gun is sold, the person who's buying it is eligible to receive it and is not a violent criminal. Wondering, Mr. Chair, if you would commit to having a hearing to hear the bill on criminal background checks.
The member from Isanti, Representative Johnson.
Mr. Speaker, Representative Pinto, we've had a number of different bills related to public safety. I will be meeting with members of the Public Safety and Security Committee, both Democrat and Republicans members, to gather their input on that and other bills, and we will take your request under consideration.
Representative Pinto.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Chair, I know that that you will be considering that. Mr. Chair, last year, as you may be aware, there were several bills that were heard that related to permitless carry and what is termed stand your ground. I've been receiving messages from constituents with a wide range of views on the gun issue who have urged a full deliberative process to have bills be heard. And so I guess I have to ask one more time, will you commit to having a hearing to at least have this bill and this idea that's been out there for a long time, to have that full deliberative process the Minnesotans are looking for, if he will yield, Mr. Speaker?
He will yield. Representative Johnson.
Representative Pinto, like I said, we will take your request under consideration.
Representative Pinto.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And then, Mr. Speaker, I wonder if Representative Schumacher would yield.
Sorry, he will yield. Representative Pinto.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Schumacher, again, a bill on gun violence protective orders was referred to your committee, the Health and Human Services Reform Committee, again, just about a year ago. Request was made right at that time as well. You, unlike Chair Johnson, have been chair of the committee this time. As you know, there's been great interest in provisions and proposals that will finally reduce the crisis of gun violence that our country is experiencing, of rates of death many times higher than virtually any other country that is not at war. I wonder, Mr. Chair, would you please commit to have that deliberative process and to have a hearing on the gun violence protective order bill that your committee has had for a year now?
Representative Schumacher.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Representative Pinto, and I appreciate the information you gave me before session today, the article there. I had a little extra time during the session today to read through some of that, which I appreciate. I was able to find your bill, the 13 pages of new language in there. We had about 400 bills introduced to the Health and Human Service Committee last year, and so we are continuing to review those to see what we can have come up, and we will take this under greater consideration too and re-review that at this time.
Representative Pinto.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Chair, if you will yield just one more time.
He will yield. Representative Pinto.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Chair, I guess I understand a wide variety of bills. I think you're hearing from Minnesotans, we all are, wanting to make gun violence a priority. And so I guess I would ask, Mr. Chair, if as you're looking through each of these bills, if you can commit to the people of Minnesota that you will provide an opportunity in your committee for there to be a discussion about this bill, about the issue of gun violence, which is a public health issue, as this bill was referred to your committee.
Representative Schumacher.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Pinto. No commitments today, but we are reviewing a series of different issues that we'll be considering during the legislative session this year. Thank you.
The member from Hennepin, Representative Hortman, for announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the Majority Leader yield?
She will yield. Representative Hortman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Majority Leader Pepin, I have not received a notice on the hearing that you plan to hold on Monday. I was wondering if you could indicate to the body what time and location that hearing is. And I would just make a request on behalf of the minority and the public that you give us the most possible notice of hearings for committees that don't have a regular standing meeting time, so that people who would like to be present at those committees could be present.
The member from Hennepin, Representative Pepin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and Representative Hortman. It was posted earlier today, so it met the posting deadline, so it should be online. It should be available. It went out to the public at the listserv that it normally goes out to. It's at 9 a.m. on Monday in room 120.
Representative Hortman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Pepin, I just hope that you will take to heart my request that you give the members of the committee, the subcommittee, maximum possible notice, because if you're inviting visitors from out of town who are flying in, I can only imagine that this hearing has been planned for longer than the time that you've posted notice, and I'm just asking for common courtesy, not just for members of the minority, but for members of the public. This is a pretty important issue. There are a lot of people who have something to say about it, and when you give such short notice, it makes it virtually impossible for many people to rearrange their schedules.
Any further announcements? The member from Anoka, Representative Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Point of personal privilege.
State your point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As many of you know, the Women's USA hockey team was victorious last night in bringing home a gold medal. And we know that that team has several Minnesota women on it, and one of those, the goalie, in fact, is from Andover. The major reason for Team USA's success was one of the major reasons was goalie Maddie Rooney. I'm proud to say that she is a 2015 graduate of Andover High School in my district. Maddie made some amazing saves in the tournament and came up big when it mattered most, stopping 4 of Canada's 6 shootout attempts. On behalf of all Andover residents, Minnesotans, and Americans alike, I'd like to congratulate Maddie and the rest of the USA team on their historic gold medal, and I would like to yield now to Representative Fabian.
Recognize the member from Roseau, Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I too would like to recognize the women's hockey team and their gold medal. When you live where I live, you know that hockey is an important thing. Interestingly, before the Olympics started, if you had driven down Highway 11 in front of the Marvin Windows and Doors plant in Warroad, Minnesota, they had what would in essence be our campaign signs, our 16 by 24s with the names of all of the women on the hockey team stuck on a post and stuck in the snowbank, and you could drive by and all of those names were there. It was pretty cool. Coach Rob Stauber, congratulations to him and the amazing women on the hockey team. They haven't won this. The Canadians, which of course is right across the border from where I live, have been in control of the Olympic gold medals over the past several years, but we've got it back. I'd like to send out a special shout out to Gigi Marvin from Warroad. She's an amazing hockey player. She played at the University of Minnesota, and in addition to that, I'd also like to recognize Lee Steckline, and Kelly Panic, Hannah Brandt, Danny Cameronese, and I mentioned Coach Stauber. So congratulations to the women's Olympic hockey team on their awesome gold medal. And oh, by the way, I should mention the Lamoureux twins. They're now married, they have no other names, but they started their careers at the University of Minnesota, went to the Olympics after 2 years, transferred back to the University of North Dakota, and my son Eric, who was coaching the women's hockey team at the time before they cut the program, was a proud coach of the Lamoureux sisters and many other awesome women. So with that, I'd like to yield to Representative Juergens.
Representative Juergens.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I too want to congratulate the women's hockey team, but I also want to point out a member from my district in Afton, Minnesota. Jessie Diggins did something that no American woman has ever done before. She won gold in her and her teammate Keegan Randall won gold in Nordic skiing. Not only did they win the gold, but they're the first women that have ever won a medal in Olympic Nordic skiing. I've spent some time in Afton, and like Representative Fabian said, with the signs congratulating the members of the hockey team, they have signs all over Afton as well, wishing Jessie luck. And so I just thank you for the round of applause. I have reached out to her, and hopefully we can have her visit along with other Olympians here on the House floor when she returns to the United States from Pyeongchang. Thank you.
Any further announcements? The member from St. Louis, Representative Metza.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Another Minnesota sport, our curling team is currently going to be competing for the gold medal. And first time since 2006 that they've been able to do that. Team Schuster, you can follow them on Twitter. We have a lot of folks excited, so proud of our teams and folks here from Minnesota.
Any further announcements? Representative Pepin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that when the House adjourns today, it adjourns until 3:30 p.m. Monday, February 26th, 2018.
Representative Pepin moves that when the House adjourns today, it adjourns until 3:30 p.m. on Monday, February 26th, 2018. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. Motion prevails. Representative Pepin.
I move that the House do now adjourn.
Representative Pepin moves that the House do now adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The motion prevails, and the House stands adjourned until 3:30 p.m. Monday, February 26, 2018.